Welcome to the Spiritual Principles Made Practical podcast. Today we're going to dig into healing false beliefs because all of the beliefs that we have about limitations are false. All of the things that we have about things not working for us are false because the the mind is powerful and it works perfectly. The problem is that sometimes we're not consciously selecting what the mind is creating, right? And so if things aren't going, just the way we want, then it's because um, we're creating things to be that way. So let's dig into a couple things and and see what we find out. So first thing is that I have this belief, and I see that, and I know it's a belief because my mind creates it in the world to some extent, not entirely, right? Because truth keeps like finding its way through the cracks, no matter what, right? I always say, you can run from truth, you can hide from truth, but you can never escape the truth. It'll hunt you down, right? So I have this one belief that people don't value what I offer enough to pay for it. And clearly, I mean, I've closed and made fees on hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of mortgages that I've arranged. So clearly, it's a false belief. But or maybe so, and then I kind of am listening, and it says, well, okay, but you can't earn a living. You can't earn a living sharing spirituality, and you shouldn't anyway because that should be free and accessible to everybody. And it's like, well, uh, being free and accessible to everybody doesn't mean I can't earn a living at it. I mean, people can, uh, it's like attorneys, right? They charge fees, but they also do pro bono work, right? So, when it's appropriate. So it's not really an accurate thought, but certainly it's out of step with the value, right? So I'll give you an example. So I'm promoting win-win solutions, right? So if there's win-win solutions out there and people believing in it and knowing that they're there and identifying and implementing them, it's like then well, war doesn't make any sense, right? Because in war everybody loses, right? And so well, what's the value of promoting a mindset where there's no war and communicating that? Well, more than trillions. Let's just put it that way. I mean, just in the money going into armaments. I mean, that alone is like hundreds of billions and trillions of dollars, right? So, the value is there in gigantic abundance, and then so the question becomes is like, okay, well, there's lots of people that have said war is bad and thou shalt not kill and all this other stuff, but people are still doing it. So, what's with that? This isn't like new information that killing each other is not a great idea. I said, well, yeah, that's true. And what's true also is that we can create in the world anything that we're really committed to, that we really believe in. And uh, we know that because we know that, we know that because it's our life, right? We've seen that. And I've got this drive to make win-win thinking the dominant thinking in the world. And it's that drive that makes it unique, right? Because not everybody has that drive. In fact, nobody has the exact same drive that I have. Nobody has the exact same drive that you have, right? That commitment to like, I'm gonna keep trying till I get it. No matter how many times I fall down, I'm gonna keep getting up and trying again, and I'm gonna learn it because I know one thing, and then people say, well, faith is determinate. Yeah, but what they don't tell you is that every time we pick ourselves up and try again, our faith in ourself gets stronger. And we get stronger. And we become closer to being able to uh, create what we're inspired to create. And I'm inspired to create a world where win-win thinking is the dominant thinking. Not the only thinking, because I still want to preserve contrast, right? but the dominant thinking in the world. And so it's like, yeah, but and that thought, right? It motivates me. It energizes me. It excites me. It's like, yeah, I'm gonna do this, and I'm excited about it. And that's what's unique in that I have to offer, right? And everybody has something, right? I mean, it could be like I'm going to be the greatest parent ever. I have this friend of mine, and he's like he takes such joy in being such a great parent, and he married, and he's got this blended family, and he's done a job better than anybody could imagine at integrating all of that and everybody getting along and being happy and stuff. And I mean, yeah, they all have like their individual problems, but as a family, they're just doing fabulously well, and he's excited about it. And I mean, and you see him talk about how uh, he's connecting with, like, his wife's kids, right? And he just lights up, right? It's like the sun, how much light and joy there is. And that's what I'm talking about. It doesn't matter what the activity is. What matters is the energy and the joy and the enthusiasm and the commitment to bring light into the world that way, right? And he's bringing light into the world as an awesome parent, right? And he's excited about it. And that's every bit as much value as Gandhi or anybody else that had a vision of bringing light into the world that was of great note and change global politics, right? So, I mean, Gandhi helped Great Britain realize that exploiting colonies was not only bad for the colonies, it was bad for Great Britain. So they divested themselves of the colonies. And so I mean, but that contribution is no greater than the contribution of my buddy who's an awesome parent, or of me who's going to expand win-win thinking to be the dominant thinking in the world, and have and earn, hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars doing it, that I'm going to use to fund research to tap the electromagnetic blueprint of disease, so that it could be, and the thoughts that are consistent with that electromagnetic blueprint, so those thoughts can be brought to light and healed through acceptance, and the manifestation of that disease is stopped. I'm gonna, that's what I'm gonna do with some of the hundreds of millions of dollars that I earn every year. I'm gonna, I'm gonna have recidivism programs in the prisons and stuff to dramatically reduce the recidivism level. I'm gonna promote the benefits of meditation and inspire people through example after example after example of advertising that what the benefits of meditation are, to inspire people by the example of those that meditate every day and have for a long time, about how much greater and more wonderful in our life is, and how much more accessible we are to our unlimited powers through meditation. I mean, I'm going to do all kinds of great stuff with the money that I earn coaching people to uh, believe in, identify, and implement win-win solutions, and it's gonna be awesome. And already, I mean, already people in my sort of small sphere are doing that, right? So I'm already having limited scale success, and I'm just but I'm gonna keep moving the envelope open to scale it bigger and bigger and bigger until win-win thinking is the dominant thinking in the world, and at least um, and but zero-sum thinking will still be there, and limited thinking will still be there, and all that stuff it'll all still be there. It'll all still be there, and because it provides a contrast and stuff. But anyway, that's maybe a little bit sidetracked, but it's like, but that's the draw, the enthusiasm, the power that exists for each of us to walk our path to accepting our own power, our own path to enlightenment. And so it's the more that we engage that energy, the more confident we are that, yeah, I've got it there. Yeah, you know what? there, yeah, I got thoughts that say, people aren't going to pay me, for the wisdom that I bring in advancing win-win solutions and all of the benefit and light that that brings to the world. And people aren't going to want to pay me money for that. But you know what? I have that thought, and I know that thought isn't true. I have sold books. I have generated coaching revenue. Certainly not at the level that I aspire to, but enough to demonstrate that that belief that no one's gonna I can't earn a living uh, sharing spiritual wisdom and being an example of win-win solutions and you know having people look at me and say, man, that guy's 71 and he's still running around the tennis court. That's awesome. What's he doing right? I want to be 71 running around the tennis court, without Advil and all kind of stuff, right? I want that, right? And it's like it's all about being an inspiring example because example is the most powerful form of leadership. But more important than that, it's like it's for my own well-being, right? It's like my life would really suck if I couldn't play tennis. I would not like that. That would not be good. And I guess 6 years ago I hurt my back, and my wife said, well, maybe you got to face the fact that maybe you're not going to play tennis anymore. And I go like, no, I'm gonna get better. And I did, and I found, and I meditated, and I found out that the whole problem in my back is that I was looking for that deep sense of connection outside of myself instead of that deep sense of connection inside of myself. And as many times as I had written and shared that when I'm connected to myself, I'm connected to everybody, I was not putting that into practice well enough. And so my back got injured. But as I uh, accepted things and healed myself, I would have these cathartic healings. And after every cathartic healing, the pain in my back would lessen and it would never go back, right? It would lessen and stay there. And then the next healing insight, it would lessen and stay there. And it was all about, accepting my thoughts and being present and listening to things. So, uh, you know, um, uh, I'm gonna, accept the thought that, nobody values and wants to pay for what I have to offer in terms of wisdom and spiritual uh, enlightenment and coaching that helps people understand that, the every goal that we have, the purpose of that goal is that it requires a greater self-acceptance of who we are, right? Of the magnificence that we are. And that when we accept that magnificence, then um, we achieve the goal. So like what I get in meditation is that I don't have to try to advance win-win thinking to become the dominant thinking in the world. That the growth that I need to have for that to happen automatically, organically, is for me to accept and relate to that I'm one with all things. That I'm not a drop in the ocean. I am the ocean. You know, it's the Beatles were sort of on the edge of it all, right? Where I am one and you are one and we are all together, or something like that. I am me and you are he and we are all together. I'm not exactly sure the words, but it's but we're one, right? I mean, Jesus said, "What you do to anybody, you do what you do to the least of them, you do to me." And it's like, well, because we're all one, whatever I do to anybody, I'm doing to myself because there is only one, right? And it's that's part of the wisdom, but it's like, okay, you know, still focusing on accepting that. So when I'm meditating, right, and meditation, I hear the thought in my mind, right, from my higher self, my true self, says, well, you want things to be easier. Right? That's what you've been saying, and I said, yeah, I want them to be smoother and easier. I mean, I've uh, dial the challenge level down a little bit. I said, okay, well then create a mantra. And I thought, oh, that's smart. Yeah, I'll put the thought in my mind that I want to create because I know that it's my mind that creates, and I know that if I put the thought in my mind that it'll create that. So, in all the realms, including the physical realm. So I'm meditating and I get the a mantra, I am the world. And it's like, and at first I wasn't sure what that meant, and I meditated on it and stuff, and it's like, well, of course, that's absolutely consistent with being one with all things. Is I am the world, and so that's my mantra, and I'm sort of feeding that to my mind over and over and over and over again, right? And eventually, it will pervade, more and more of my conscious experience in the physical realm as well. But it's already, uh, gaining traction in my mental realm, if you will. And so it's like, and I'm enjoying the being present and the wisdom and the happiness of that thought being present in my mental world. And I've also, created thoughts that other thoughts of things that I want to manifest and want to have in my life, right? And it's not really manifesting. I mean, in a way it is, but mostly it's just um, accepting the fact that my mind creates whatever it is thinking about, and I can choose what that is. And uh, by repeating, what I want over and over again, and the more emotion I have, um, the more powerful it is. So I'll give you an example from my life. Boy, it was more than 40 years ago now, but I remember saying, God, and that's when I thought of God as something outside of me, which I no longer do, but nevertheless, same difference. I said, God, I either want to die or I want to meet a woman who I love and who wants to marry me. And I don't care which, but I'm not going to go on like this anymore. I'm done. I won't kill myself because I won't do that. But I expect I'll die in a traffic accident, or I'll contract some disease or something that will end my life because I don't want to live like this anymore. And uh, even got to the point where I started saying goodbye to people, saying, I've made up my mind. Either I'm going to meet somebody who I really love who wants to marry me, or I'm going to die. And I met her, and so it looks like probably I'm going to die. Something's going to happen. So goodbye. And that's what I did. And then wham, I met my wife. And then needles just went off the board, and it was like, oh my God, somebody to make my life wonderful enough that I want to go on living in this crazy ass world. And 40 years later, through lots of ups and downs and joys and sorrows and good times and bad times and love and hate and all of it, right? We're still married. And you know, I would still choose her over anybody else I've ever met anytime. I mean, and it's like she was and is the motivation for me to dig deeper. Um, and it's crazy, that I wouldn't do that, for myself, but boy, you know, I do things for her that I'd never do for myself. And I'm getting better about doing things for myself. I mean, I'm learning and growing and stuff, but still, I do things for her. And I tell her sometimes, I says, I'm doing this for you. I said, I would not do this for anybody else. No way. But for you, absolutely, I'll do this. And it's enabling me to dig deeper and stuff. And one of the things that, I mean, I'm so committed to her happiness and joy and health and well-being and everything that I've meditated so much on it, and what can I best do to support my wife? And it's like that, and the answer comes back, and it's not just support your wife, but support yourself and the whole world is work on yourself. When you work on yourself, that's the maximum benefit that you can provide to not only your wife but yourself and the whole world. And so I keep working on myself, and that's consistent with that mantra of I am the world, right? Because the more that I'm able to relate to and identify with being the world, the more I have power and dominion over it, right? The more that I create it with my thoughts, and the more that I experience being one with all things, right? And that heals the world, right? My first book was Healing Ourself, Healing the World. I mean, and this has been, an ongoing theme. And so while a lot of people have that idea, nobody has the exact idea with the exact train of thought, the exact level of commitment and motivation that I have, because it's my path. And I know it's my path because it's super enlivening, right? And so whatever is super enlivening, that's your path, right? And nobody's path is the same, right? Everybody's path is different. But what they share is that when you're on your path, you're on fire, baby, and nothing's gonna stop you. And it's like, obstacles be damned, here I come. And that's what it's like when you're on your path, right? And so when I'm on my path, I'm an inspiring example that you look at this and you go like, yeah, baby, I want to be on my path because I want that kind of energy in my 70s or now or whenever, man. I want that like unstoppable energy, right? And it's like, and it's there for you, right? And so when I model that, when I share my unstoppable energy, it helps you identify and engage with and experience your unstoppable energy, because the amount of light and joy and energy and upliftment we have has no bounds, no bounds, and that's all there for us. So even though part of me feels, oh, that's a pipe dream and you're never going to do that and you can't earn a living, I said, people are going to give me hundreds of millions of dollars just because they want to promote win-win solutions in the world, because they want that for their children, and they want that for themselves. I mean, money's going to just come from like everywhere because people want to support that. And that's the world that I'm creating for myself, right? And I'm here and I'm enthusiastic, and it's great, and people are going to do it because they want to be part of it, and that's all awesome. And so despite having that negative thought that no one's going to fund my work, people aren't going to pay for spiritual, wisdom. They may not pay, but they'll gift to it. Like, I mean, in the church, right? I mean, they pass the basket, and you don't have to put money in the basket, but people put money in the basket. So it's the same kind of deal, right? When you want to support in it something that advances you in the world, then you'll use whatever resources you have to do that. And so, I'm just, what? People are going to give me money and fund it because they want me to be able to pay for the commercials that inspire people with the benefits of meditation. They want to pay me so I have money to do the research on disease so that we can identify the thoughts and heal the thoughts through acceptance that are causing disease long before it manifests physically. People want to have a situation where recidivism is like almost down to just a tiny fraction of what it is today. I mean, and I'm inspired to do all of that with the money that you give me, right? I mean, it's just there's all kinds of amazing stuff that's available to us, and that's what I'm going to do. And so I have the belief that people are going to find a way to fund me one way or another to do all of this. And um, and part of me says, no, no. Not going to happen. You're blowing smoke. No, no. And you know what? I accept that thought. And so when I put that thought up against the energy that I just shared with you, who do I think is going to win in the end, right? It's like, as like I'm putting this video out there, right? And if you want to fund, solutions, right? If you want to put the energy out there where people say, war doesn't really make sense. We all lose. We got to find a way to get along together, and there are win-win solutions, and we'll contact Scott or somebody else, right? And we'll identify win-win solutions because he said with such conviction that there's a win-win solution to every problem that it resonated with me, and I want to be part of that, and I believe that, and now I want to focus on win-win solutions because in listening to him, he inspired me, and I looked inside and felt, yeah, you know what, that is true. There is a win-win solution to every problem, and I want to be part of the solution, and it's like, yeah, this would be a great thing. So compare that energy, that vitality against no, nobody cares or values what I have to offer. I'm just not capable of communicating well enough to inspire people to see the light. I'm just wasting my time. I might as well just get a bottle and drink myself to death. Okay, so which one of those two do you think I want? Yeah, you got it. So, but uh, um, to sap the energy out of those negative thoughts that I shared, I have to heal them through acceptance. At least that's the mode that works for me, right? Other modes may work for other people, and that's great. And God bless you. If you've got something that works for you, milk it for all it's worth. Don't abandon what works for you because it's different than what works for me. If you've got something that works for you, you use it, and don't let anybody talk you out of it either. You do what works for you, right? But for me, what works is acceptance. Acceptance is healing. And so when I accept those negative thoughts that nobody cares and nobody's going to, donate money and resources and help and access and all those things. Yeah, I have those thoughts and I accept that I have those thoughts, and those thoughts are wrong. They're demonstrably wrong because people have helped. And like I say, I mean, not at necessarily at the level that I want, but the more that I accept this drive, this light, this vitality, this joy, the more it inspires people to like, yeah, I want to participate with that. And people are, right? People are coming out and wanting to participate with that. So I know it's true at that level, and I know that by focusing on it, right? By entertaining the thoughts more fully that will expand on to greater and greater levels and eventually encompassing the world. And so I know that's true, and I know that those thoughts are false, and I also know that they're there. But by acknowledging that they're there and saying, "Yeah, baby, you could be there all you want, but you're not slowing this train down." I mean, we are moving, baby, and and you could be there all you want, but we're going on anyway. That's what sucks the energy out of it for me. That's what works for me to suck the energy out of it. So it's important, at least for me, to look at what's happening physically. And if it's not the realization of our most uplifting and joyful hopes and dreams, it's because there's a negative thought that we believe in to some extent that's inhibiting that. And that at least my way of dealing with that negative thought is to accept its existence and to say, yeah, baby, you could be there all you want, and I'm going anyway. It ain't gonna stop me, right? And it's like when I came home from college, and I didn't think I could do the work, and I was stressed, and I was hospitalized because with a spasmodic cough because I was putting so much stress and pressure on myself that I couldn't function in some respects. One of the great things my dad said to me, he said, well, you know what? You're at least as smart as the average person, and the average person is passing. So you can do this. If you need help, get a tutor, we'll pay for it, whatever you need, but you can do this. And you know what? He said that, it resonated with me, and I went back and I got a chemical engineering degree from Berkeley in 4 years. And so, and it took a lot of growth and it took a lot of, persistence and effort, but I did it. And it's like, so I could point to all kinds of things in my life that I thought, I would never figure out. I mean, there was a time when I thought I could never talk to women, that I was just so nervous around women, I couldn't talk to them. The joys of being a teenager. Oh my. And then one day I was like, I realized, I just treat women like people and it's fine. I forget about the fact that they're women, treat them as human beings and you're fine, and it's like, oh, how obvious. Surprising it took me so long to figure that out. Oh well. But it's just a sign, right? It's just a sign that if something is important enough to me, I'll find a way, right? And I can look back through my life on all kinds of things where I found a way. And I mean, and I mean, and I mean, and I've got powers. I talk about, I was riding my bike one time up on the ridge on the peninsula in the San Francisco area. And I was coming down into San Mateo and through this curvy, windy, steep road on my bicycle and not wearing a helmet, of course. And I got going too fast and I couldn't make the turn and the bike went off the road and I did like several end over end revolutions with the bike. But my actual experience is I felt myself encased in warm, soft, protective cotton. And it was just this sort of wonderful experience. And then when I landed and the bike stopped skidding and stuff, I went and I thought, okay, let's assess the damage. And I wiggled my toes and I go, okay. There's no paralysis, I didn't do that, and my arms and my fingers, oh, well, that's good. No problem there. And I said, well, let's try and stand up, see what that does, well, stand up. It's like, okay, move my neck. That's all good. And my fiance at the time, came along later, right? Because she had the sanity not to go too fast, and said, "Oh my goodness, you're bleeding from your head." And we looked at it, and it was a tiny, tiny scrape on my scalp. That was it. And no, that the bike was fine. And so, you know what? I mean, there's powerful energy to, keep me in the game as long as I'm engaged and accepting more fully myself, and that includes all my power. And another little thing of like, piece of power, if you will. I was driving home from work one day, and I was coming up to Pan Canyon Boulevard, and uh, I was heading uphill, and then a car that was heading downhill came across the double yellow line, sideswiped, and really crunched the car in front of me, and was headed straight towards me in a head-on way. And I threw massive amounts of light in between me and that car, and I expressed the thought, that son of a bitch is not going to hit me. And his car stopped less than 2 inches from my bumper. Nobody will ever convince me that I didn't keep from getting hit head on by that car. I believe it with all that I am. And that makes it true for me. So I mean, I've got power. I ran out of money one time and I said, God, do you want me on the street? And I got, no. And I said, well, I don't know what to do because That seems, I don't see how not to end up there. Yes. Well, just hang in there, just hang in there, you know. And it was like, wringing a wet towel out, just hanging in there, right? I mean, at one time I made a goal to make it through the next 3 minutes. I mean, that was how much stress I was under. And then I hear this voice in my head saying, go here and do that. And I said, well, I don't know what to do when I go there. And they said, don't worry about it. We'll take care of all that. You just go there and do that. And I did, and this energy comes through me, and wow, I start having all kinds of words and energy, phenomenal. I mean, at a level that I believe no human being could resist, come through me. And I walked out of there, and my financial problems were done, at least for years. It was amazing. But it was because I refused to turn away from the light. I refused to give up on myself. And so I know that all I have to do is refuse to give up on myself, and I'll continue to learn and grow spiritually. And that was part of just a tremendous amount of healing and growth for me spiritually. So I have that, I have the same commitment to advancing win-win thinking in the world that I had to manifesting my wife in my life, to not getting hit head on by a car, to the calm I had when I was held up at gunpoint to not get shot, to all kinds of things that um, were really, really important to me. And advancing win-win thinking and having that be the dominant thinking in the world, in and of itself, really isn't important to me. But what is important to me is experiencing the vitality that's part and parcel of that, of making that happen. I mean, okay, if that's what I got to do to be vitally alive, sign me up, baby. That's what I'm going to do. And that should be an inspiration to you. So I've rambled on long enough, but sure as heck, I hope I've inspired you to take a look at the things that you're really committed to, the things that light you up, and do those things and understand that in the process that there are going to be limiting negative thoughts that say, I can't do this, or I'm not capable of doing this, or I don't deserve this, or whatever it is. And do what I did. Hold those thoughts as thoughts, inspect them, realize that they're not accurate, and redouble your resolve to get up and get going anyway. I mean, you look at Henry Ford, he went bankrupt multiple times. Sam Walton, he went bankrupt several times. It's like, it's the reason that you can get up and go one more time. I mean, I talked to, Body by Jake. I mean, his one message was, don't give up, right? Is that every time you pick yourself up and try again. I mean, I got into it with the IRS, right? And I got in meditation, don't give up, fight this one to the death, right? And I kept failing and failing and failing and failing and failing in all my efforts. And then guess what? One of my efforts worked, and the whole situation was resolved to my benefit. It's it. Uh, Find something that is so important to you, so enlivening, so uplifting that doesn't matter how many times you fail, how many times you get knocked down, you're coming back, baby. And understand that every time you pick yourself up and come back, you're coming back with greater strength, greater energy, and greater probability and possibility that you're going to make that happen in the physical realm as well as the realm of your mind. So let this be an inspiration to you. I do thought coaching. I can help you if you want. Identify those things that you're so overwhelmingly committed to that you're going to just keep at it no matter what till you get there. I can help you with that if you want my help. If not, you don't need my help. You do it on your own. But if you want my help, that's fine. If you want to donate money to support my efforts to advance win-win thinking in the world, and if that's a joyful, uplifting, wonderful thing for you to do that would dramatically enrich your life, do it. In any event, You can contact me at scottfriedman40@gmail.com. If you want coaching or you want to donate money or you want to give me introductions to politicians who'd benefit from having win-win shared with them in such a uplifting, inspired way that they get it, um, let me know. Call me up. Help with the introduction. I mean, if you give an introduction to philanthropists that want to make the world a better place, and you think that, and you're inspired, and you feel that that would be a wonderful and uplifting thing to do, and put people together in that way, let me know. Put us together. In any event, anything that you think is uplifting, that you think is increases your experience of joy, if it involves me, contact me. And if it doesn't, contact whoever it involves. All right. My books are available on Amazon. You can find them through the links on my website, which is www.thoughtcoachingbyscott.com. All righty. That's enough for now. Bye.